What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Let's dive right into our first news. Kamaru Usman has shared his thoughts on the idea of a pure wrestling matchup between Daniel Cormier and Jon Jones, and he made it clear that he does not believe it would be easy for anyone. The conversation started after DC confidently suggested that he would dominate Jon in straight wrestling. While many fans quickly agreed, Kamaru offered a much more measured and respectful take. Kamaru explained that the common opinion tends to underrate Jon's wrestling ability simply because he did not compete at the Division I level or collect the same traditional accolades as DC. According to Kamaru, that lack of a decorated collegiate resume has caused people to sleep on just how naturally gifted Jon really is. He went as far as saying that he genuinely believes Jon could have been a multiple-time Division I champion if he had fully committed himself to that path. He pointed out that there have been moments throughout Jon's career where he consciously decided to lean on his wrestling, and in those moments, he made high-level opponents look completely outmatched. Kamaru described Jon as a freak athletic talent, someone who can flip a switch and instantly impose himself in grappling exchanges when he chooses to do so. That, in his view, is not something that should ever be overlooked. Kamaru also highlighted Jon's background, reminding people that wrestling runs deep in his family. Both Jon and his brother Arthur were New York State champions, which speaks to a strong foundation built long before the UFC spotlight. While Kamaru acknowledged that high school titles do not compare to DC's international and Olympic level accomplishments, he stressed that they still matter when evaluating raw ability and instincts. He added that while DC and Jon fought under MMA rules, there were wrestling exchanges in those fights that showed Jon is far from a pushover. Kamaru emphasized that Jon is no slouch in those situations, and that a straight wrestling match would not be as one-sided as some believe. He described the potential matchup as incredibly exciting and one of the biggest possible spectacles in combat sports, praising both men while reinforcing that nothing about it would be simple or easy. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to support the channel. Moving on to another news, Michael Chandler has revealed that the chances of a fight with Conor McGregor are higher now than they have ever been. Chandler made it clear that he is fully invested in making this matchup happen and that both fighters are showing interest. He described the possibility of them walking out together for a main event at the White House, which adds a unique and exciting twist to the potential bout. Chandler emphasized that the odds are stronger than ever at this point, reflecting the momentum building around the fight. He mentioned that it's no secret he wants to fight Conor, and the signs from Conor himself suggest he's on the same page. Chandler pointed out that Conor has been posting videos of their highlights together, giving fans glimpses of what could happen and signaling his own interest in making this fight a reality. The back and forth between the two fighters has created a buzz, and Chandler feels the timing is right. While the fight hasn't been officially announced, Chandler confirmed that conversations are actively happening behind the scenes. He remained tight-lipped on the exact details, simply stating that talks are moving in the right direction. Despite the uncertainty around official announcements, Chandler is ready to take action and is preparing for a potential June fight. He plans to start training very soon, laser-focused, to ensure he is at peak performance for whenever the bout is confirmed. Chandler acknowledged the process of making such a high-profile fight happen takes coordination and patience. He described himself as fully committed, doing everything he can to ensure the matchup becomes a reality. The energy between him and Conor seems aligned, and both sides are clearly motivated to see this fight come together. Michael Chandler remains optimistic and determined, knowing that all it takes is a bit more timing and planning before the fans get to witness what could be one of the biggest matchups in recent UFC history. With preparation underway and interest mutual, Chandler is positioning himself to make the most of this opportunity, showing the world that he's ready for whatever comes next. Moving on to another news, Jamahal Hill has opened up about the idea of eventually moving up to heavyweight, and the thought is clearly starting to excite him. Speaking about Alex Pereira's potential future at heavyweight, Jamahal explained that while Pereira is an elite striker with dangerous power, the jump to the bigger division comes with serious risks. According to Jamahal, heavyweight fighters bring a completely different physical reality, and that alone changes everything inside the cage. Jamahal referenced what fans recently saw in the Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane fight, pointing out how effective Gane's jab was and how even a highly skilled striker can be outboxed under the right circumstances. He noted that Pereira has shown strong takedown defense at light heavyweight, but he has still been put on the ground at 205. At heavyweight, Jamahal believes those problems could be amplified. The size, strength, and leverage of the bigger fighters could allow them to simply lift Pereira, control him, and impose their grappling much more easily. He emphasized that heavyweight grapplers are not just stronger, they are more capable of turning small mistakes into fight-ending situations. Still, Jamahal acknowledged the danger Pereira brings, reminding everyone that at heavyweight, all it takes is one clean punch to completely change the outcome. Power like that always keeps a fight interesting, no matter the matchup. While the conversation initially focused on Pereira, Jamahal made it clear that he is thinking about his own future too. He admitted that he has an appetite for gold, and that chasing success in more than one division is something that appeals to him. Jamahal hinted that movement might not just be a possibility for others, but something he could seriously consider him as his career continues. Moving on to another news. Anthony Joshua has released an emotional statement addressing the tragic accident that recently took place. AJ spoke publicly after two of his close friends, Latin Cena, sadly lost their lives. The statement was shared on X, where Anthony expressed deep gratitude for the love and support shown to the families during this heartbreaking time. In his message, Anthony reflected on how he never fully realized how special his friends were while spending everyday moments with them, walking together and joking around. He shared that only now does he understand that God had placed him in the presence of truly great men. Anthony admitted that the situation has been incredibly tough for him to process, but he emphasized that he knows the pain is even heavier for the parents who lost their sons. He described himself as mentally strong and said he believes God knows the hearts of his brothers. Anthony ended the statement with a prayer, asking God to show mercy to his friends and keep their memories alive. Moving on to another news. Michael Morales has revealed that his next UFC fight could be a major one, with a possible matchup against JDM currently being discussed. In a recent interview, Michael opened up about conversations he has had with the UFC and shared insight into the confusing state of the welterweight division right now. Over the past few months, the title picture at 170 pounds has been anything but clear, with several top names circling the top spot. At the same time, Islam Makhachev has been vocal about his interest in moving into the division and has repeatedly called out Kamaru Usman, saying he believes Kamaru would be the toughest challenge available. While that storyline continues to develop, many fans have been calling for fresh contenders to get their chance, including names like Ian Gary, Michael Morales, and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, it looks like at least one of those rising contenders may be taking a different path for the moment. According to Michael, the UFC has discussed setting up a fight between him and JDM. He explained that the promotion initially floated the idea of this matchup for March or April, before also mentioning the possibility of him fighting earlier in January. Michael admitted that he was not interested in competing that soon, as he wanted time off to rest and recover properly. He added that he was told Islam was also offered a January fight and turned it down as well, with both fighters agreeing that January was not an ideal time. With that window closed, Michael said the conversation has now shifted toward a summer return, possibly around June or July. From his perspective, a fight against JDM makes a lot of sense. He described it as an opportunity to gain more experience and continue building toward a future title shot. However, he also made it clear that if the UFC were to offer him a fight against Islam, he would accept that challenge without hesitation. This situation creates an interesting ripple effect across the division. If Michael Morales faces JDM next, it temporarily removes one contender from the title discussion. And if Islam ends up fighting Kamaru Usman as he has suggested, it could leave fighters like Ian Gary and Shavkat Rakhmonov waiting on the sidelines. For now, everything appears to be in motion, and the next few months could significantly reshape the future of the welterweight division. Moving on to another news, Jon Anik opened up about a surprising and frustrating aspect of his UFC contract during his appearance on the latest Jackson podcast, revealing a side of his relationship with the promotion that fans rarely see. While discussing the intense grind of preparing for back-to-back numbered events like UFC 324 and UFC 325, Jon made it clear that he is not happy with how the UFC treats him contractually. Despite being a full-time employee and one of the most trusted voices in the sport, his deal contains a clause clause that allows the UFC to fire him at any time without cause. Jon admitted that this was the first time his own agent had ever encountered language like that in a broadcaster's contract, highlighting how unusual and one-sided the deal really is. He emphasized that many other broadcasters in similar positions have guaranteed contracts, which adds to his frustration. For someone who dedicates countless hours to preparation, research, and travel, the lack of basic job security is a serious concern that weighs heavily on him. Reflecting on a high point in his career, Jon mentioned the Leon Edwards knockout and how fans responded to his call as a special moment, but he reminded listeners that, despite these achievements, the UFC could still fire him at any time without cause. He joked lightly about how UFC fight fans might rebel or boycott events if that happened, but the underlying concern was real. He described his situation as being in a fight-to-fight contract, even though he is technically a full-time employee, stressing that it is unusual for someone in his position to face such uncertainty. Jon also explained the logistical challenges of covering consecutive events like UFC 324 and UFC 325, noting that he will be pre-voicing UFC 325 during the week of UFC 324 and won't be able to fully turn the page to the next batch of fighters until the Sunday after UFC 324 concludes. This packed schedule adds to the pressure, especially when combined with the constant awareness that his employment status could be terminated at any moment. Overall, Jon's comments gave fans a rare glimpse into the behind-the-scenes realities of being a UFC broadcaster. His frustration was clear, but he also balanced it with professionalism and a sense of humor, making it obvious that while he loves the sport and his role within it, the lack of job security is a persistent concern that he cannot ignore. Moving on to another news. Jon Jones has spoken out after filming an upcoming season of a Russian reality series, and it's clear that his time coaching against Daniel Cormier was far from peaceful. Before the show, Jon had expressed optimism about the experience, saying he looked forward to competing against Cormier in a different setting and was even open to potentially building a friendship after years of rivalry. Unfortunately, that reconciliation never happened. After filming wrapped, Jon unloaded during an interview with Red Corner MMA, describing Cormier in the harshest terms. He called him a complete and accused him of treating his staff poorly. Jon said that, in his view, Cormier is not a good person overall, and suggested that anyone who works closely with him would likely agree. According to Jon, Cormier brought a team of yes-men with him and treated them as personal servants, constantly demanding water and attending to his needs while displaying little regard for the people around him. Jon explained that he tried multiple times to make peace with Cormier, but it became clear that Cormier preferred to maintain animosity, partly because of how lucrative their rivalry has been. While there were a few moments of levity, Jon said that, for the most part, Cormier was unpleasant and unsociable, making it difficult for anyone on set to connect with him. He emphasized that this behavior extended beyond filming and reflected a general attitude that Jon found frustrating and unprofessional. Despite the tension, Jon highlighted a moment of personal triumph. He proudly stated that he made Cormier cry in front of the world and, in his eyes, took him off the list of fighters considered among the greatest of all time. Jon also expressed confidence in his prospect, Gable Stevenson, claiming that he would achieve 3 times the championship's success of Cormier and cement a legacy that will keep Cormier in his shadow. Jon's comments painted a vivid picture of a strained relationship filled with unresolved conflict and strong opinions. He made it clear that while there may have been some shared laughter during the season, his overall impression of Daniel Cormier is one of deep frustration and disappointment. Jon also underscored the competitive aspect, noting that any hypothetical wrestling matchup against Cormier would be fascinating to see, but his confidence in his own legacy and that of his fighters remains unshaken. Moving on to another news. Chael Sonnen has addressed the recent speculation surrounding the mark on Justin Gaethje's neck, and he was clear that he does not believe it is an ingrown hair. Earlier this week, Gaethje uploaded a video to his YouTube channel, and fans immediately noticed the mark, sparking all kinds of theories online. Many suggested it could be a staph infection, though no official medical diagnosis has been confirmed. Chael weighed in on his own channel, breaking down the situation with his usual candid style. Chael started by addressing concerns about whether the fight would still go on. He expressed confidence that it would, noting that a typical staph infection seen in wrestlers or grapplers usually resolves in about 3 days. He explained that if medications were needed to address the issue, it would likely not affect Gaethje's ability to compete. Chael admitted that he does not know exactly what the mark on Justin's neck is, but he was very certain it is not an ingrown hair. He emphasized that the biggest concern often comes from overreacting or attempting to cover up something minor, noting, "The cover-up is always worse than the crime." Chael explained that if Gaethje truly believed he had an ingrown hair, it could point to a staph infection that might spread, especially if it is highly visible. Despite this, Chael reassured fans that the situation is likely not serious. Justin Gaethje later addressed the speculation himself, confirming that he does not have a staph infection and claiming it was an ingrown hair. Chael, however, maintained that based on his experience, he sees staph infections frequently and has some on his own arm at the moment. After analyzing the image of Gaethje's neck, Chael concluded that he still could not identify the mark, but he was confident that it is not an ingrown hair. He wrapped up by saying that while Gaethje might not be fully transparent about what is happening, the situation is ultimately not concerning. Chael made it clear that for him, the mark does not impact the fight, and whether Gaethje is misrepresenting the cause or not, it simply does not matter. Fans can rest assured that Gaethje remains ready, and this minor controversy will not derail the upcoming matchup. Moving on to another news, Dana White spoke in an interview with CBS Today and addressed the major title implications surrounding Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. Dana made it clear that the matchup carries serious weight in the division, and that many people are already looking ahead to what comes next for the winner. According to him, the card itself is stacked, with a fun main event and clear championship consequences attached to it. Dana acknowledged that a lot of fans want to see the winner of Justin and Paddy go straight into a fight with Ilia. He explained that this is a natural reaction given the excitement around the matchup and Ilia's current position at the top. However, Dana also emphasized that the situation will play out over the course of the year, and nothing is locked in just yet. He also took time to highlight the rest of the card, calling the Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes matchup the greatest women's fight of all time. That's it from MMA Pulse News. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for your daily dose of MMA news.